What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome back to What is Up with Mental Health and Everything Else. And of course, I am your host tonight, Latavia Balmer, and I am here with personal counselor Brenda Sherd. And of course, it is March Madness,
That's
so we
right.
are welcoming
Yes.
our very first special guest, Jamie Johnson, and we are going to introduce you to a wonderful topic because this is a very important topic. A lot
Mhm.
of people around the world suffer from these two things. So let's get into it. What's up with anxiety and depression?
Man, these are probably the most common
Mhm.
uh, mental illnesses that are present in, especially in the Western society world. Anxiety, depression, they go hand in hand.
Mhm.
And yeah, let's get into it. I mean, let's get into it because it's very common. And if not dealt with, it can be very debilitating. And we don't, that's what we're here for. We're going to address this.
Yeah,
We're going to address it.
what is anxiety? Well, I suffer from anxiety and I also suffer from depression, and I'm pretty sure Jamie may have had experience with either or both.
Me too.
Of course.
Me too.
So I know that for me, anxiety is like very intense, just like unsettling feeling of overwhelmed fear and worry. And it's just like sometimes you can't even get out of the trance of
Mm.
it being around. It's just like, when is it gonna pass? When is it gonna pass? But it's just something you just have to, get through, I guess.
Mm.
But how do you feel about anxiety?
Well, I've been struggling with anxiety since I've been a child. Um, it recently, um, I guess, made more of an impact on my life in my later teenage years. Um, Talking to the therapist, I was diagnosed with severe anxiety, severe depression, and OCD.
Oh,
So I kind of have like obsessive thoughts about my anxiety, and
Mm.
they present in a lot of different ways. Like some people may have social anxiety, and some people may have anxiety about the health, but I have anxiety about everything.
everything.
So,
Yeah.
I feel you on that
Like
one.
a generalized version of it. Because, in the DSM-5, which is like the book that we use to diagnose, there are definitely different versions of anxiety where maybe it's triggered by social settings. And then that's more of like your social anxiety. It could be triggered by like large areas, like big crowds and public transportation. That's a version of it that has its own like diagnostic feature too. Then you have generalized anxiety, which I mean, it's just kind of just like the feeling internally that is there for multitudes of reasons, unspecified, but it's anxiety, and the intensity of it. That's another part of it too. Like, there can be mild anxiety where it's on your brain, but you're pushing through, and that's one version of it. But then there's like more heavy or severe anxiety where it can really put you in a state of freeze,
Yes.
and you know you can almost then start to like have heart palpitations and like panic attacks, if you will.
Yeah. Panic
Um,
attacks are not fun at all. Oh my god. And especially if you're alone by yourself. Oh my god.
um, I'm I'll tell a story. Like I've had I think for me back in the day, I've been working hard on this. We'll get into tips to help, but um, my anxiety would force me to either shut down or escape. That fight or flight. I was a big flight, and there's also two other components where it's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And freeze was another one for me. Like, um, it usually would happen in job settings, in a certain period of my life. But I mean, I had to get used to a new job, and I just did not know how to manage it then. And I never walked in. Nope, never went. I got to the place, but I could not manage through that anxiety. And I was like, okay, this is really real. That's really real. How about you guys? Like,
Um, well, I dealt with it a lot. I have like a not so much recently. I've been
mm,
in therapy, men's
mm,
group, but in the past I've had like I have severe panic attacks. I don't know if anybody can relate, but I've had like tingling sensations in my feet, in my
mm,
chest, heart palpitations, sweating,
mm.
um, just like stress. Like
Yeah,
I've had to go to the hospital for it.
I
Um,
see.
it's been it stopped me from doing a lot of things in life. Keeping jobs, doing well
Mm,
in school, showing up to class, completing work. So it's
mm,
been very present.
Yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from. For majority of my life, I was looked at as antisocial because of my social anxiety. I didn't know how to interact with anybody, and whenever I was pushed into a social setting, I would experience some of the things you have mentioned, and I just felt like I can't do this. I can't do this. It's too much pressure. But every day, I'm always anxious. Like literally right now, I'm always anxious. But I put myself out there and I push forward because I don't want my anxiety to be the cause of me missing opportunities
mm,
and not being the best version of myself. So I kind of like that we're talking about this topic because we can like address the things that we've experienced and other things that we may have not experienced, and we can learn how to overcome this type of thing, especially with both anxiety and depression, because it's horrible
yeah.
knowing that you're worrying about being depressed and then
Mm-hmm.
you have the depression on top of the
Yeah.
anxiety, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, when can I take a break?
Yeah.
So,
They're very much hand in hand. That was a great way of showing how it's functioning with one another.
mhm,
And then a lot of times it's like, when we look at symptoms of depression, where it's like isolation and like somber mood, um, loss of interest for a lot of things. In some contexts, the presence of anxiety only amplifies it. Because if I'm too anxious to talk to somebody else, that then continues the cycle of depression because I'm not outreaching and I'm like isolating more. And I don't have relationships to kind of boost up my mood. Um, the things that a person would suggest to get through depression isn't the right doesn't isn't the right option sometimes because the anxiety makes it that difficult. So this is
yes.
like it's a big thing we're dealing with here with these two.
Yeah, it's like a reoccurring cycle. You know what's crazy? There are people out there in the world that actually think that depression is a choice.
Is
Like,
a is a what?
it's a choice. Like, you
Huh.
choose to be
Huh.
depressed. Like, you wake up one day and you're like, you know what? I want to be depressed today. I'm gonna sleep in my bed. I'm gonna move around. I'm just gonna be sad and be depressed. And then tomorrow I'm gonna be all happy, jolly. And I'm like, yeah, it is a choice.
No, that's a
You're
bad
abs-
day, maybe, but
you're absolutely right. It's a choice. But no, depression is a disorder, a mental
Mhm.
disorder characterized by persistent depressed mood or loss of interest in activities, causing significant impairment in daily life. So this is not a choice. People
Yes.
actually go through these things and they want to fight it. Like, they actually are struggling with these mental health issues.
Mhm.
So for people to say it's a choice is like, you need to educate yourself.
Yeah.
So
And, it's like know a bad day. That's the definition, great definition. And like the important part to it too is like a bad day could be for 1 or 2 days, but then you're back to what you feel as normal.
mhm,
With depression or anxiety, this is something that if we are to diagnose has to be persistent for more than 30 days.
mhm,
Right.
So, go through 30 days of having a bad day. You're going to like it shifts things,
mhm.
which then increases the severity of what we're talking about. It's not a joke to be like, oh, I have depression. No, no, because if you really do, like, it hurts. Like, it does
I
not
mean,
feel good, and it's registering your mind in that type of way. It's not a joke. It's not a choice.
and
Let's just nip that there.
yeah, and imagine having bipolar disorder on top of
Uh,
depression.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's a challenge.
Hmm.
But it's like for I don't know. I really felt a type of way when I came across this individual who does believe that depression is a choice and that all of mental disorders are chosen. And I'm just like, no. Everybody's brain is different.
Yes.
But for you to just think that we're not really going through the things that we're talking about is like you have to get out of your own
Hmm.
world
Hmm.
and broaden your mindset
Hmm.
because people are struggling every day and it's a cause to so many lost lives. And as you know, you're never alone.
That's
So
right.
if you're ever having doubts or thoughts about severe of ending anything,
Hmm.
please call this number. Please talk to somebody because that's not, you know, I wouldn't suggest it.
Yes. Yes. You can also call 988. It's the new national hotline number. If that number is easier to remember, they shortened it for those reasons. 988 also allows you to get in contact with somebody if you're struggling with depression, anxiety, or anything that is like severely impacting you. But but let's turn this around.
Yeah,
You know,
we're a little
you
low in
what,
energy
no,
right
no, we
now.
always go through a process of defining it, right?
Yeah.
But like as we talk about who to call and whatnot,
Mhm.
you know, let's talk about how we can manage this. Like, it's not a choice, and reasons why it happens. You know, it can be brain chemistry.
Mhm.
Um, and it can perhaps be allowing certain thoughts, ideas, and feelings to flood, and not knowing a defense against it. Like, what can we do to combat anxious thoughts or our like negative emotions, if you will? And I mean, I have some tips, but
What are your tips? Let
no,
us
I was going to ask you, JB, like,
Yeah,
you
what's your
know,
tips? You're the
because
best.
you described your story, which like, thank you for sharing, and like here you are doing this podcast with us, and like I know that takes some, bravery, if you will,
Mhm.
and effort. So tell us, please.
I think one of the most important things is to know what your anxiety manifests as. Um, I know in the past mine has manifested in anger.
Okay.
I felt I had anger issues when instead it was
Mm.
just me being anxious. So once I started to identify what was triggering me, my certain behaviors that attributed to being anxious, then I was able to take certain steps. So one thing that's my favorite thing to do, I like to take walks.
Mm-hmm.
I have a specific park as a stream. Um, I do meditation techniques at the park where I put a thought on a leaf and then I let the leaf flow
Okay.
downstream and
I
I
like
recite it.
that. I like that.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend therapy. Um, just having someone tell you like, "Hey, you're not crazy." It's people
Mhm.
go through this and
Yeah.
it's something normal, and then they give you coping mechanisms and then you from that point you just kind of find what works for you. Yeah.
I love that tip.
Right.
The
No.
leaf,
That
wow.
works. That's a
And if you think about it, it's
yes.
like connecting to nature, if you
Mhm.
Yeah,
will. I like that.
definitely.
Yeah. There's the awareness component. Like,
Mhm.
it used to manifest as anger, but it was anxiety expressing itself as such, and you know, because if it's anxiety, but you're taking like anger management to try to deal with it because you shows out behaviorally as anger, you may find that ineffective. It's something deeper. It's like there's a purpose to identifying it for what it is. Um, and then I hear like, you get in motion, like go for walks. There's a certain park. And there might even be a routine, if you will, that, there's a desired outcome that can happen that brings you peace.
Right.
Um, cool. That the whole nature effect, getting some sunlight, if you will, 'cause it's very helpful. And then therapy, yes, yes, for reasons that we've talked about a lot on this channel. Therapy is an outlet for you to help you identify what's going on, or you know, let it out. Let's get on the right page about this and address it in a evidence-based framework, if you will.
Mhm.
You know.
So what's your tips? You didn't give us your tips.
Oh, I didn't
What's
get
your
no tips.
tips?
I like to journal. Well, did you mention journal?
Oh,
If you didn't, well, I know you said the leaf, and then you kind
yeah.
of release it. Um, I need to take inventory, and I do that by journaling. Um, if I'm having anxious thoughts, or just I'm in an off mood, before I let it persist for too long, I'm writing it down because I just want to like it's my way of addressing it and figuring out what's going on here and not letting the thoughts kind of just cycle over and over in my head. By writing it down, it's stated, and then I can move on. And that's my version of taking inventory. That helps me. Um, and then, you know, I I'm actually in therapy myself. Like not because I just want to continue to work on myself. And therapy is that outlet for me. I know I can be prone to anxiety and depression, so it's just nice to check in and get the thoughts out of my head. Sometimes on paper, and sometimes with someone that I trust, right? And I'm working on being more active, but well, we'll try that in the summertime. And those are my go-tos, though, and definitely a meditation practice. It helps me to just be at ease. Well,
Those are some really great tips to overcome or deal with anxiety and depression. So I commend both of you for it because doing a lot of these things aren't really as easy as we make it seem. Like you can't sometimes writing your thoughts or anything is hard to like put
mhm.
into words, how you feel, things of that nature. So yeah, I think my tips or what I usually do is poetry. I don't know, poetry just helps me calm down. And music. That's why it's music playing every episode because it calms my nerves because I could connect with the music that's flowing. And then as my body is relaxed, my words are just coming out. So those are my tips. I like to stay active. I'm always active. I do not like to sit down because once I sit down, it's just giving the anxiety to just take over. I'm like, nope, gotta be on the run. Gotta be on the run. Gotta
Yeah,
keep going. Won't catch me. So those are my tips.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I definitely agree with that. Staying active. Something my therapist was telling me about was just healthy distractions.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, like you kind of said, like not giving the anxiety or depression a chance to kind of like latch on and
Yeah.
like start to obsess about it, and then the thoughts
Hmm.
come
Hmm.
flooding in, and
Hmm.
before you know, it's uncontrollable. So
Yeah. And I think as individuals who have experienced it and go through, we know when it's coming on to like we have this feeling, the urge, like, okay, it's about to be an episode. We have to get up. We have to do something because if we don't, it's gonna be bad. And I think a couple of weeks ago, I was experiencing this, and I was telling my sweet mate like I have to remain active. I cannot stop because everyone's like you have to rest. I'm like I will rest when it's time to. But right now, I have to keep going because if I sit down for too long, she's gonna latch on and she's not gonna want to go nowhere because I clearly am her favorite person. Clearly. So I was telling her like, yeah, everything that I do is for a reason because I know how bad I can get and I know my ups and downs are just not
Yeah,
good. So
yeah. I know. I healthy distractions.
yeah.
It's good. I mean, you're occupied.
Mhm.
You're engaged with something. You know, you're being productive, if you will, in one way or not. Um, it just helps you to stay kind of grounded
Yeah.
and moving in a certain direction. And there's a lot that can be said about um, anxiety, depression, and different states that people are in. But healthy distraction.
Yeah, because everyone's experience with either or is different, you know? Like yours is very severe. Mine is bipolar, and I'm not sure. about.
Mine is on the higher end of moderate.
Okay.
That much.
So it's
Sometimes severe. Shoot,
yeah.
I've worked on it though. Definitely worked on it.
So it's three different types of anxiety in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So how we deal with it is similar, but it's also very different. So to talk about this is to address that there isn't just one anxiety or
Yeah.
one type of depression. There's so many, so you can't always identify if someone is dealing with something just based off someone else's experience. So you also have to be mindful. This podcast is always about mindfulness. um that's why I created it for, because like we're addressing everything in the world right now,
Mm-hmm.
because everything in the world is like
Yeah.
lollygaggy. But
Yeah.
this topic is really important. So I want everyone out there who's listening, who experiences or know anyone who experiences, to just educate yourself or take heed, and just not put too much pressure on people, because that's also another thing. Everyone is so pressured to be a version of themselves that someone else has in their head, that they can't always keep up. So that also brings the anxiety and the self doubt and the depression, because you think you're not worthy enough to, be who you are. But you are. You matter. Always
Right.
Um, it's like down this. I'm getting like more into opinion now,
matter.
but when it comes down to anxiety and depression, you know, sometimes I wonder if that's because of like stagnation that we might have within ourselves as compared to others. Sometimes, like there's certain, if there's a nagging thought, which one is the one that always gets you, right? Um, for me, it was just like, am I good enough, kind of thing, right? And then I would say, oh, here's 10 reasons as why I'm not, right? And it was a cycle. And like, where did that come from? I don't know. Like, was I doing the right hobbies? Did I, was I reading enough books? Like, am I progressing further in my life? Um, it at the end of the day, it didn't matter because I needed to start telling myself positive things
Mm-hmm.
to negate believing in the negative.
Yeah.
Everybody's on their own process and they get there when they get there. But if you let the mind keep you in this whirlwind of negative thoughts, your anxiety is going to increase and increase, and it's not going to go anywhere because it's just like floodgates
Yeah.
and like just have grace with yourself. Just follow what it is that you want to pursue. There's everything you need is right within you, and just do your best to follow that. Whatever brings you happiness and joy and peace, go for it. Don't compare yourself to others. It's not going to go nowhere. Just you're fine how you are, and just follow the path that you're here for.
Yeah, I think it always come down to sense of self,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
your self-esteem, self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about how you feel on the inside.
Yes.
Because if you're not feeling good on the inside, and then there's people in your ear that's also feeding you negativity, then it's just gonna fester and fester and fester, because you already feel like you're not good enough. Then they're telling you their opinions about you, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just feeding
Yeah.
that depression and anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
now they have so many thoughts to latch onto to create other thoughts
Yes.
that create other thoughts. I'm
Right.
like, baby, we over here having a whole family now. You
Yeah.
can't get rid of me.
It's all so tangled now, and like,
Yeah.
my God, I'm jumbling.
Has a lot to do with like the company that you keep sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had to learn like some of the friends that I had, like they were into so much drama and had so much stuff going on with them that I didn't get caught up in what they feel and what they're going through. And a lot of the time when I was young, I didn't realize like, hey, you're not upset because of something that's actually happening or affecting you. It's someone else's emotions that's put you in this kind of state of being anxious about things. So try to keep peaceful people around you. Not saying that people won't have their problems, because they do. You should be have grace with them, but at the same time, only handle what you can handle.
Absolutely. My favorite quote is, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." You can take it however you want to take it, but I'm just saying, like, you have people around you that's constantly doing negative things, you're gonna get whooped in it. Have people that's doing positive things, you're gonna get whooped in it. So be around the people that's going to benefit you, and you benefit them. Have a balance. Is basically what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
A balanced life is a healthy life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's like uh, finding like inner peace, if you will. Like, I mean, I, there's been times where I could be called a loner, and like sometimes if I want to be connected to other people, being a loner is not helpful. But sometimes people can bring drama and negativity, and that pushes me right back to being a loner, right? Because, what I'm trying to say is like, there's a certain level of peace that I want to have, that I almost like demand for my life at this point. Like my actions is going to bring me peace, um, and I'm trying to find people on the same like platform who care about their peace too, like because all this noise, if you will, can lead straight to anxiety and our depression. It's just like information that you're taking in where it's like, yo, that's confusing. But like, did you see the end result of that? Like that person really went off on somebody. Why? Like, is this what the world's coming to? What if it had been me? And then let's start with those thoughts, right? Like, no, keep it positive, keep it simple, keep it peaceful. Because it's possible and it just feels better. Okay,
Yeah.
like I need that surrounding me.
Yeah, I think now what we're talking about is boundaries, like what we
Mm-hmm.
allow to come into our sacred space, because
Mm-hmm.
our personal space is sacred. So whatever we allow to like listen to, who we allow to listen to, and things of that nature, it can interfere with the way we think and the way we process life and affect our peace. So it's just more about boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Boundaries.
Sometimes easier said than
Yeah, I'm saying,
done.
I'm not gonna lie. Boundaries is a work in
It's a
progress
work
with
in
me, because
progress.
I could put a boundary in my head right now, like, this is not gonna happen. Then I'm in the situation and I'm like, this is happening.
My boundary has been violated.
Yes, and I'm like, and I don't know how to actually like address it, because like, did I communicate this as a boundary,
Yeah.
or do I assume that they think this is my boundary? Like, how do I go on about this,
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, maybe stay true to yourself, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but boundaries are easier said than actually done.
Yeah, but it's useful.
Mhm.
Um, like I mean, when you it's like listen, we could talk about like self love, if you will. But when you have like that standard of living for yourself, like, and you see something that's way different being expressed by another person, like, yes, a quick boundary can come up where it's like, maybe I can only deal with you for 1 hour out of the day.
Tolerance.
However which way it needs to happen, but it's something that works for you in that context. Um, because there's a standard of living you want to see and follow, and like, yeah, no, that's what I'm striving for. Like,
Striving for greatness every day.
mhm,
Let it.
Um, I think a lot of that sometimes has to do with like we were talking about it the other day, like this grind culture, and it's
mhm,
like
mhm.
it's 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 important for some people. Some people find that inner peace from being successful.
Indeed.
Um, but some people find that inner peace by just being content. Like whenever I do my manifestations, I don't manifest being happy or not being sad or not being anxious. I manifest being content and okay with whatever comes,
Yeah.
because you're gonna have ups and downs, and it's just gonna happen. But
Yeah.
if you train yourself to kind of be like, at the end of the day, I'm okay with this, then
Mhm.
and it's not settling, but it's more of just preparing yourself to face these challenges without letting yourself drop too
Yeah.
low.
Yeah.
More so like an understanding of both of both ends of the stick,
Mhm. Like being
basically.
steady.
Yeah.
Like no matter which may come your way, you still can like stand tall
Hmm.
and navigate through whatever challenges life has for you next.
Yeah, because life is always gonna life is always gonna have a challenge,
Take the
boy.
good with the bad,
I'm
of course.
saying.
But it's like I love how we got to this part of the conversation while we're talking about anxiety and depression. And I think to anybody who has experienced it, really, we know how like much peace you may have lost if you are actively going through periods of high anxiety or high depression. Like it's probably the complete opposite of peace.
Yeah,
It's just like a whirlwind
Yeah.
in a sense.
definitely.
And, you know,
It's kind of like you're lost from reality.
mhm,
Whenever you're going through that, it's like you're just in your head and everything's just spinning, 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 spinning. There's a whole world here just moving along and you're just steady in that whirlpool. And they always come back to contentment because
yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah,
Peace.
feel like stagnant, like people around you are accomplishing things and
Mhm,
going through having different experiences, and you're kind of sitting there stuck on the same thing
yeah.
because
mhm,
that anxiety kind of just it traps you.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
So I
mhm.
definitely relate to that.
Heavy on trapping.
I hate that. Hey, that's why I entered this field. I like it's one of my favorite. Like as a clinician,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to help people get through anxiety and or depression. Like it's, and I guess in a twisted way, that's one of my favorite diagnoses to work with because one, I recognize it personally. Like I know emotionally what that feels like.
Right.
Granted, like don't get me wrong, it can be different for each person, but I think I have a life story attached to it myself. And so that opens my heart to another person's experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've had to use tools and, find the light through it myself. And, I just want to be that beacon of hope for the next person who has experienced it that, hey, it is possible and you can do this too.
Mm-hmm.
And just hold that space for them if it happens within the clinical context.
Yeah, each one teach one.
Mm-hmm.
Each one teach one. Like, of course, I know we have to talk about anxiety and depression.
It's
A
very
mental
common.
health.
It's
Yeah.
that and probably insomnia, which
Uh,
can be triggered by
mhm.
anxiety and depression. Those are like the
There's
common three.
so much that come from just anxiety and
Mhm.
depression, though, and a lot of people haven't identified it yet, and it's just they're you know going through all of the emotions that they're going through,
Mhm.
and they haven't talked to a therapist or a counselor
Mhm.
or just read about it just to catch up. So it's like it's crazy out here in the world.
Yeah.
Seriously, even
Yeah.
the weather can affect
Mhm.
how we feel with our anxiety and our depression and
Mhm.
all these kinds of things. I kind of like this episode. It's a little bit calm.
Yeah.
The
Hey,
energy is
whew.
calm
Peace be
because
still.
it's about peace and tranquility.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Right. Let the music play. Let's. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
No, like it's because it's important. Like finding that state. Um, I'd rather be like kind of neutral than
Mhm.
to experience that storm, right?
Like water.
That's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then, always striving to be the best, or like, um, it's just talking about concepts of positive psychology
Mhm.
and finding things that are known to make a person genuinely happy. Like positive relationships, engagement, positive emotions. There's a couple things.
That's
Um,
wild.
but it like lets me know about like when it comes to mental health, anxiety and depression, like you have baseline, if you will.
Mhm.
And like, I think we're like right right there. This is good. This is good. This might be a little bit more the baseline. Anxiety and depression is like way on the other side, on the left side. Like
Mhm.
it gets really real there, in a negative way. um, find your way back to baseline, which is victory in itself. Then you move on to finding just pure joy, peace, and happiness.
Yeah.
And
And you know how our anxiety and depression can affect a lot of things in our life, especially our relationships. Would you guys suggest or prefer to go about this situation? Because a lot of the times people aren't always, open to dealing with a partner who has these issues because they feel like a burden. So, what do you feel?
mm, want to take that
Um,
one?
well, I know this topic of discussion like very intimately.
Okay.
Um, with my mother and my partner. Um, my mother at first she didn't understand that I had anxiety. She kind of like, why aren't you doing this? And why don't you just kind of what you were saying earlier? Like you can choose to feel this way. And it's like it's something that I can't control. So once, I mean, it kind of took for me to like get to a really low point for her to see like, okay, my son can't control this.
Mm,
He doesn't choose to not be successful in certain things. Then I feel like with my partner, it's a lot of communication, like very open and honest communication. Like a person a person who loves you, they may not have the capacity to deal with your mental illness all the time, but they will stick through it with you, um, if they really have that love for you. Um, it's also a key point, like you know yourself, so don't like overwhelm them, don't like
mm.
overload them with it.
Okay.
No, yeah, I think that's important.
That's great,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah. I like that. I like that. It's like in the context of being in a relationship, like romantic relationship, let's say. Um, it's great to find someone who is understanding and supportive of you know whatever pathway you've had with a certain diagnosis, right? That's probably part of why you love them, like, or you get to love them, of that understanding. And then, like, let's say in its ebbs and flows of anxiety or depression, maybe there's like it's presenting itself more today than it hasn't been like that in a while, but today is a bad day. And it's also, I feel like, you know, we, to show the love back in the relationship, like, we will always, like, be accountable for our mental health. Like, we're always going to be doing, as a person with it, like, what we can to make sure we have it under control, if you will. Like, we're doing the steps, we're going to therapy. Like, um, it's not just something that I'm going to burden you with, and then it's going to be your problem. Like, no, there's a level of, like, okay, I do need you to know that I might go through my periods with this, but, like, your love and support can help me only further go through it. Um, I mean, it's a little bit of what it's about, but working the steps. I mean, once you are alleviated from it, there's a lot of times it doesn't even impact your life like that anymore.
I feel like you have to find a balance with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about balance. Life is about balance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm taking from you guys, like being able to balance it out, the communication aspect, being aware of yourself, knowing your triggers, and not to overwhelm your partner or to think that they're going to take on your issue and fix it for themselves. So balance.
Yeah.
You want to say
Yeah, I think especially in romantic relationships, it's about choosing the right person.
something?
Mm-hmm.
The person that you're with, in order, it's really hard not to take on your energy for themselves. So like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be with someone who does the internal work. I call it shadow work.
Fair
So
enough.
it's like they have to be aware of themselves, not necessarily that they don't suffer from their own problems or mental illnesses, but it's just like when they're aware of themselves, you're aware of yourself, then you're able to come together and kind of deal with each
Yeah,
other's.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Very. You can tell when, like, things shift, and it's
Mhm.
like, okay, was that me or was that my partner?
Yeah.
But and they would know it too. They know the context as well, and then it leads for open communication about what's going on because there's a level of understanding about where people are right now emotionally or what may have happened. It's I like that because it can be helpful and it just keeps things very clear and communicative. Like
Yes.
you can acknowledge it, talk about it, figure it out, on to the next one.
Right.
So what we're saying is communicate.
Yeah.
It's very important.
I think this was a great episode, and I want to thank you again, Jamie, for coming
Yes,
on and
thank
being
you.
our special guest for March Madness. We have more to come. Watch out for next week episode because it's gonna be one you do not want to miss. And of course, your girl's gonna end the episode with a quote.
You know,
like
I was about to
always
ask.
do.
I was about to, where's the quote?
You know I got the quotes. You know I got the quotes. We do not miss out on the quotes.
I love it.
Now, took me a while to see if this quote was the best quote, but as the conversation going, I know that it is. So, two things to remember in life: take care of your thoughts when you are alone, and take care of your words when you are with people. So that's the quote for tonight.
It's beautiful.
And I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for getting thus far. And if you have any questions, concerns, please reach out to mental health underscore everything else. And our DMs are always open. And if you want to email us, you can email me at Latavia underscore Barmer at Bloomfield.edu or Brandon underscore Sherd at Bloomfield.edu. And we will be glad to answer any questions or concerns. And further ado, have a good night.
Have a good night.